Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of our Let's Play of Crusader Kings 2, Irish Spring. Not the soap, of course, but, just a renewal, a new thing. This is our Let's Play designed with beginners in mind. Hey, that rhymed. Wow, lots of rhymes. Anyways, yeah, moving on. Before we get started, let's just jump around and see what's going on in the world. Okay, Norway. Norge is doing what it normally does. Got pretty nice size Sweden, England being England, France having some revolt issue, but I'm sure they will handle it. Spain is pretty segmented. It actually looks to me sort of like it's getting ate up a little bit by some of the Muslims are coming in. And what's going on over here? So we can see that Eastern Europe is pretty divided up still. Seljuks and Fatimids. Byzantines doing pretty well over here. This is interesting. The Gurids are in the middle of the Ghaznavids. Pala, what's that? Kalyani, Chalukya? Solanki? I've never started an Indian play, after the first start date. So some of these names are familiar to me, like Pala and Seti and Somavamsi and Chola, but some of them are not familiar to me, such as Paramara. And actually this one is familiar. Chauhan? Sumra. Anyways, so it looks pretty much the way you'd think it would look. Nothing really out of the ordinary. That's what I'm always excited to see, is the things that are kind of weird. I like to see strange things. Sometimes, England can get taken over. I think the weirdest thing I've ever seen England getting taken over by was, I saw a Danish England once. That was pretty strange. Okay, so what do we got here? This is Duchy of Leinster still, which we're not going to make. I know that we were kind of trying to kill this guy. Are we still working on that? No, I guess we stopped that. Oh, we weren't trying to kill him. What we were trying to do was we were trying to spy on him. Are we still spying on him? I think we are. But we've been spying on him now for... Sorry. We've been spying on him for probably 10 years. 5 to 10 years. And haven't really made any headway with that yet. We are trying to fabricate in Briefny, which hasn't really worked very well for us yet. Maybe we need a change of scenery. Maybe that's what we need. Alright, let's move this person over to Connacht. Normally, I figure out who I'm going to try to fabricate on by looking at their intrigue levels. I'm not sure if this is something that I've invented in my own head, or if it's a legit thing that I've read somewhere and just have forgotten the source. But I've always figured that lower intrigue, lower state intrigue might mean that it's easier to fab a claim. I mean, it makes sense to me, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's true. Do we have any claims? We don't have any claims right now. I mean, we have people that have claims, but nobody that we want to give land to. We are under our domain limit currently, 405, and until we take these two counties, which right now we are set up to be his heir because he hasn't had any children. In fact, he's not even married, which is really odd. I'm not sure what's going on there at all. So hopefully maybe he just stays unmarried and eventually dies, and we get this. And then what I will start doing is I will start giving away, like, maybe, one county to press a nice ducal claim or something like that. Like if I could give away Lagan here to somebody who had a claim on, say, this whole duchy here, then I would most certainly press that for them. Well, once we become a king. You cannot hold an equal level title under you. So right now we're just a duke. Even though it says king, we're not actually a king. We're a petty king, which is a duke equivalent rank. you can't hold anybody of equivalent rank under you. So keep that in mind. What would happen there is, you know, if we pushed a claim for somebody who was landed under us, and we pushed a claim for a ducal title for them, not only would they get that land, but they would take the county that we gave them away, I believe. We would lose that county, so it would be not a good idea. But we're not very far away from being able to make Ireland. In fact, we only need one more county, and we need one more county, and we need one more duchy, I believe. So we may end up having to form that duchy down here, just because it's the only other duchy that we can form at the moment. But we'll see. All right, let's go ahead and unpause. We've bantered enough. So military, we're pretty good. I mean, militarily, there's nobody here in Ireland who could, in any way, shape, form, or fashion, stand up to us. Pretty much the only person on the Isles right now that could stand up to us would probably be England. Even Scotland doesn't have nearly as many troops as we do, which bodes well for the future. As long as we can keep having people be in charge that have a good amount of martial, we should see that number stay pretty steady, if not go up some more. Okay, this is my son-in-law who had a child with my daughter. Does he have... Oh, he died. Yeah. He died, so I married her off to somebody else. So I guess he impregnated her prior to his death. How sad. Okay, we have about 1,000 gold. Normally, as a duke, that's a lot of gold for me to have. So why don't we spend some money? You know, I may have said, you know, whenever I recorded last time that we were going to save up a certain amount of money, and I don't really recall because it's been a few days since I've recorded. But typically, I like to keep a little bit of money kicking around, and it depends on what rank I am and, you know, how do I perceive the threat around me. If I think that there's going to be a lot of threat, if this guy died, if I had a really, really rotten heir lined up, which I don't. Actually, this is a pretty decent heir. I mean, he's quick. He's a charismatic negotiator. He has pretty good scores. That diplomacy will help out. I mean, he is slothful, which does suck. And lustful sucks. It's not very good for your relations with church people, but other than that, it doesn't really matter. Whereas, yeah, slothful's pretty bad because you can see it does give that -5 to vassal opinion. Anyways, but he's not terrible because he doesn't have a ton of negative traits. And he also has prestige, which is going to help out quite a bit. That's why we made him the designated regent and the cupbearer, so he could start to just roll up some prestige. But back to my original point, if we were in a situation where I thought that whenever he died, we were going to have to like give gifts to people to bring up relationship scores, that we might get invaded, or if our kingdom was going to get fragmented, that's where a war chest really helps out. We're not really in any kind of a threat at this point. Even if he died like tomorrow, it wouldn't be a huge deal. So why don't we spend some money? And what all could we spend our money on? Well, we've already upgraded Tuatha main holdings quite a bit. As you can see, the cheapest thing we can do here is castle fortifications, which they are good to build. They're cheap, but really I feel like they're pretty unnecessary for us at this point. Typically, that's something that I will build further down the road when I feel like I don't want to spend 400 gold on a barracks. Desmumain is kind of in the same situation. Ermumain we don't own, even though it is part of the duchy that we would like to keep. So we're not going to do anything there. And Sildara and Lagaine, unfortunately, these might be some counties that we might be wanting to turn loose of. Because our plan eventually is going to be to hold this duchy, so that's going to be 3, and then this duchy, which is going to be 4, so that'll be 7. Being a king will allow us to hold more. We can bump up our centralization, but I really don't want to invest money into a place where we might just give it away. So Another thing that we could do, because we have so much money, is we could build a completely new holding. You know, but you can see it's pretty expensive. The base cost for it is normally 700 gold, and that cost is modified by some different stats that we have. So I'm thinking it might have to do with, and I'm not 100% on this, I'm sure somebody will come in the comments with the actual stuff, the actual, you know, scores and how it's figured, but I think it has something to do with your stewardship. Which our stewardship is, well, actually our stewardship is pretty crap. It might have something to do with our opinion or our diplomacy. I haven't looked it up, and it's not something that I normally keep up with too much, because to be honest with you guys, I don't normally build a lot of new holdings. The only time that I normally build new holdings is when I'm just like super flush with cash, or whenever I get the event. You can get an event if you are the, I can't remember if it's rulership or business. I think it might be rulership. Anyways, you can get an event where your steward comes and says he knows somebody who can build a castle for you for 400 gold, which, you know, I always take that, because a lot of times you get a refund of 100 gold on that. So, okay, well, I guess in that case, I think the next cheapest thing here was a barracks in Desmond, which will give us 45 heavy infantry and 20 pike. Which is good. Heavy infantry is just a nice, solid infantry unit, and then pike is very good against horses. Not that we're going to see a whole lot of horses at this stage of the game, but it's good to have them for the future. And it will allow us to burn off a little bit of gold. We don't need to burn off too much. Tamar has dragged her unfaithful spouse Gruffid before me and insists I should punish him. So I guess he cheated. This is my daughter, Tamar. If I say this is a waste of my time, she becomes insulted and loses 20 opinion for a year. And Gruffid will gain 15 opinion for a year. If I go the other way, if I actually lock him in the stock, I gain piety, and the influence gain flips. Well, I'm going to go both of those, you know, the bonus and the malice for the opinion is pretty short term. So I'm actually going to take the one that will give me a little bit of a benefit, the piety. So, you know, maybe if I was worried that maybe if I was worried that the person who was insisting for the punishment was somebody who I was afraid of having a really low score with, say a spy master, then maybe I would want to go this direction. But yeah, I'm not really too worried about having either of those people dislike me. So we will gain 10 piety. Piety's good because piety will make the church like you more, kind of like prestige. You can see I have a plus 10 to piety. It's like if for every 100 piety you have above 0, you gain like 1 opinion score. So, my liege, the people of Middlesex have progressed beyond our own technological level. So this is an event that we've seen before. We love it because it helps us to advance our tech faster than our neighbors. Let's see what we get. So we got economy. We are holding off on economy until we get castle infrastructure 4 available, which we're about halfway there. A little bit less than halfway. We'll get there pretty soon. Okay, so we're still not having much luck spying on him. Really, probably the reason we're not having much luck is, well, number 1, he has really good intrigue. But number 2, it probably has something to do with the fact that he's probably not doing anything because he likes us so much. He's got like a 100 opinion of us. So something that you can do, if you are wanting to get more prestige, and if you are struggling with the opinion of your vassals, and you have gold just floating around, something that you can do after the month of October is you can have a feast. You can see right here, hold a feast. Now it does cost a little bit of money. You can see the conditions for having a feast are: you have to be at peace, you can't be a prisoner, you can't be in hiding, you have to have at least 25 gold to start the event, although it will cost more than 25 gold. Oh, it has to be at least November, so yeah, after October, and then you must have at least 100 prestige to have a feast. And then the moment that we click this, we lose 25 gold, but we gain a temporary buff holding a large feast, monthly prestige 0.05. So we'll go ahead and do that. Normally I would not do that right now because there's really no point. We have 1100 prestige, and it's not going to add a ton more prestige, but I think all of our vassals like us pretty much. Yeah, you can see their scores are pretty good. The only ones that don't like us are these two bishops who really, really feel like they should be on the council, except for the fact that their scores aren't very good. So I'm not really too worried about it. That's the same guy I just looked at. Yeah, both of their scores are pretty rough, so we're not really too worried about putting a bishop on the council. But yeah, let's go ahead and have this feast just so you can kind of see. I don't know that we've done one yet in this tutorial playthrough, so you'll kind of get an idea of, you know, what some of the different events that can happen are. So, all right, so we get an event immediately once we click that button. It says, "I have given the orders for a great feast to be hosted in Tuatapin. Let the preparations begin, and all my vassals will be there, except for the fact that they can turn down the invitation to the feast, which will piss you off. You get upset whenever your vassals turn down the invitation to the feast. I guess unpausing would be a good thing. So you can feast in the winter, and in the summer you can hold what's called a town fair, and they kind of achieve the same purpose of advancing your prestige a little faster. So here's one of the events that pops up. The fire blasted right past my face, and I felt how my hair started to curl away from the fire. The fire eater had been a bit too careless for my taste, but his troop and he was clearly greatly skilled. So we can say, you know, the guests would be impressed if they entertained my feast. So what we're doing right now is we are actually not having the feast, but we are auditioning the talent that will, you know, perform at the feast. Or too dangerous. I don't want my guests to catch fire, so we lose prestige. I pretty much always go for, you know, the route of spending the gold versus, you know, going minimalistic here, because I really don't feel like, what's the point of going halfway here? So we're gonna have the fire breathers. While I was busy preparing for my feast, a troop of wandering jonglers arrived at the castle. They looked a bit ragged, but their performance entertained the whole castle. Perhaps I should think about offering them my patronage. So again, we're auditioning talent, and we have the same sort of dichotomy here. We can lose some gold, they'll come to the feast, or they don't come to the feast, but we lose prestige. So we're going to lose the gold. They will be perfect entertainment for the feast. Now we're talking about the food. The best part about preparing a feast is deciding what foodstuff to serve. I must purchase venison, boar, and duck, spices, wine and ale, honey for the desserts, cheeses, and perhaps even a swan or a peacock. So this one's a little different. Immediately we're going to get a return on prestige, and that's because we're having to spend a little bit more gold. So we can spend lavishly on the food, which we lose 20 gold, and gain 10 prestige, or we can spend just enough to get everybody a plate, basically, and we just lose 10 gold. I pretty much always go lavish here. So if you're keeping track at home, basically, so far, we haven't even had the feast yet, and we're out, what is that, 20 plus 10 plus 10 plus 25. So 65 gold is how much we've spent so far. And we've gained 10 prestige and whatever, you know, 0.05 times half a month. So 0.025. Most of the preparations for the feast have been made. Now I only have to send out the invitations. So now we're going to send out the invitations, and the vassals will get an invitation, and they have the opportunity to accept or decline. I expect that most of them will accept, with the exception, perhaps, of the two bishops who are pissed off at me because they're not on my council. All right, let's attend to these focuses. So, Dub Limna Nikfursu, my granddaughter, is needing she's needing a childhood focus. So, we will send her. You know, we've been doing timid, you know, to make them into content. But it might also be good to do some of these other ones to kind of spread around and hope that they hook up with some of the high traits, you know. You know, let's go faith with her, sure. Okay, and we have Fedotch MacGruffid. My grandson is now... What do we do? We must have went Thrift. Because he's curious, fussy, and timid. He's also charitable. So that's good. Well, we will probably intervene on the fussy to make him diligent. Timid. So he's curious, fussy, and timid. Looks to me like he's actually leaning. He could go learning, or he could go intrigue. Yeah, basically, those are the ones where he has a bonus to the education, but no hamperment, whatever. He won't be hampered. You guys knew what I meant. He seems to be leaning a little bit towards learning, but you know what? I think, yeah, let's go learning. Sure, let's go learning with Fedotch MacGruffid. Now we could intervene here on the timid. We could intervene on the timid and push him towards being content. But I think I want to push him towards diligent. So let's educate him with somebody who's diligent. Who do we have here? Well, I could do it. You know what? I'm going to do it. I like doing this. It's always entertained me. I don't have to do it, but I like it. Okay. I hereby invite you to the feast. And we should see the... Okay. Nobody refused. It looks like everybody is coming. You don't get a message if they accept. You only get a message if they refuse. What's this? So, Philippe Capet is wanting to marry his son, who is the heir to the Kingdom of France, to my courtier with a weak claim on Desmond. Declined. The guests have finally arrived. All is ready. The cooks have worked day and night preparing the food, and the castle has never looked lovelier. Welcome to my feast. Wow. I mean, the computer's so funny. They just, like, they get on this bender about who they want to marry, you know, and then they're like, you know, they say, okay, I want to find somebody to marry, and then they just continually are like, okay, sure, yeah, you can marry her. She's slow. I approve. Ah, okay, not too happy. Last of the guests have returned home, and everyone agreed it was this year's greatest feast. So sometimes what can happen at the feast is you can have these random events where you might pick up a trait, or somebody might become your friend, or somebody might become your enemy, or they'll lose opinion of you because you got so drunk and you pissed yourself. Things like that. I had great fun, and so did everyone else. So we're going to gain 10 prestige, but then remember that temporary modifier that we had? Holding a large feast, it will go away. That's what that mess down there means. Apparently there's a bug. And everybody will get a small opinion boost of us. So if we look at our vassals, if we look down through there, enjoyed feast, +5. So it used to be +10, I believe, and now it's +5. So you know, feasting not necessarily as good as it used to be. But anyways. All right, well, I guess that's a pretty good place to put a cut in. We didn't really, you know, accomplish too much there, but I did a whole lot of talking, and I think that's going to be kind of a common thing for the first episode that I record after not recording for a few days. Is I'm probably going to talk a lot and reorient myself, and I hope you guys don't mind. So, anyways, thank you so much for tuning in, and until next time, game on.